Behind many legendary films lies a production story more disturbing than the fiction itself. The Shining was not simply Stanley Kubrick's exploration of madness. It evolved into a 13-month psychological marathon that stretched its cast and crew to their absolute limits. What began as Stephen King's best-selling novel became a filmmaking experience where the line between performance and reality blurred in unsettling ways. Actors endured real emotional strain. Doors were destroyed again and again. Sets were drenched in hundreds of gallons of artificial blood. In many respects, the true horror unfolded behind the camera. One of the film's greatest technical achievements emerged quietly in the corridors of the Overlook Hotel. When audiences watched young Danny Torrance glide through endless hallways on his tricycle in 1980, they were witnessing revolutionary camera movement. The floating, ghost-like tracking shots were made possible by early Steadicam technology, which had only been invented a few years earlier in 1975. Kubrick became one of the first major directors to fully embrace the device. Camera operators were essentially experimenting in real time, using equipment so new that standardized techniques had not yet been established. Those smooth, drifting shots permanently changed how filmmakers approached motion and perspective, securing the film's place in cinema history. The novel itself was born from something deeply personal. Stephen King has described a night in 1974 at Colorado's Stanley Hotel that profoundly unsettled him. He was not researching a book when he checked into the nearly vacant hotel, but what he experienced there left him shaken enough to begin writing almost immediately. That encounter, which he believed had a supernatural quality, infused the story with a raw authenticity. The terror in The Shining does not feel imagined from a distance. It feels processed from something that deeply disturbed its creator. Even the title of Danny's psychic ability has unexpected origins. The word shining was inspired by John Lennon's 1971 song, Instant Karma, specifically the lyric, "We all shine on." What was intended as a hopeful message about human connection was transformed into something eerie. In King's story, shining becomes a dangerous gift, a power that exposes its bearer to horrifying visions of the past and future. Kubrick's genius extended beyond performance and into architecture itself. The Overlook Hotel feels wrong because it was designed to be wrong. Windows appear where no exterior wall should exist. Hallways stretch beyond the logical dimensions of the building. These spatial contradictions were deliberate. Kubrick understood that subtle environmental inconsistencies create subconscious discomfort. The hotel becomes a living presence, a place where physical laws seem unreliable and reality cannot be trusted. The famous elevator scene remains one of the most visually unforgettable moments in film history. Achieving that tidal wave of blood required between 200 and 300 gallons of fake fluid, along with complex mechanical systems to control the flow. Multiple takes meant complete cleanups and resets. What appears as a brief supernatural eruption on screen represented days of technical planning and enormous physical effort. Real-world concerns even altered the story. King's novel placed the hauntings in room 217, but the Timberline Lodge in Oregon, which provided the exterior for the Overlook, worried about business repercussions. They requested the number be changed. Kubrick agreed, creating room 237 instead, a detail that later fueled countless fan theories and interpretations. Kubrick also manipulated smaller details in subtle ways. Furniture shifts positions between shots. Objects relocate without explanation. These changes were not accidents. They were carefully placed disruptions meant to unsettle viewers at a subconscious level. The audience may not consciously notice, but something always feels slightly off. To preserve innocence, the production shielded child actor Danny Lloyd from the film's horror. He was told he was participating in a family drama. When he saw the elevator scene, he was informed that the red liquid was simply juice. His genuine innocence adds authenticity to his performance because his fear was never manufactured through trauma. Certain elements from the novel were left behind. King's animated hedge animals were considered too fantastical for Kubrick's grounded psychological tone. Instead, the director created the hedge maze, a physical labyrinth that mirrored Jack Torrance's unraveling mind. The staircase confrontation between Wendy and Jack became legendary for its endurance. Shelley Duvall repeated the scene over 100 times, maintaining raw emotion with each take. By the end, her exhaustion was not simply acting. It was real. The iconic "Here's Johnny" line was never scripted. Jack Nicholson improvised it, referencing a familiar television introduction. Kubrick immediately recognized its power and kept it in the final cut. The moment transformed an axe attack into one of cinema's most quoted lines. Kubrick immersed himself in research about psychological breakdown. He studied mental institutions and consulted experts to ensure Jack's descent into madness felt authentic. The portrayal of isolation-driven psychosis grounds the supernatural elements in unsettling realism. Before Nicholson secured the role, other actors were reportedly considered, including Robert De Niro, Robin Williams, and Harrison Ford. Each would have brought a radically different energy. Nicholson's performance, however, became inseparable from the character. A brief shot of Jack reading Playgirl magazine sparked discussion about hidden layers within his character. Kubrick was rarely careless with detail, and even fleeting images invite interpretation. The Overlook's geometric carpet pattern achieved unexpected cultural status. Its bold hexagonal design has appeared on clothing, merchandise, and even in other films, becoming a visual symbol recognized far beyond horror fans. Stephen King has long criticized Kubrick's adaptation, believing it strayed too far from his novel's intent. He later produced a 1997 television miniseries that adhered more closely to his original story. Scatman Crothers endured dozens upon dozens of takes for a single scene explaining The Shining to Danny. Kubrick's perfectionism was relentless, and much of that effort was trimmed in editing. Shelley Duvall later spoke openly about the toll filming took on her health. Sustaining fear and distress for more than a year blurred emotional boundaries in ways that lingered. Nicholson's axe sequence required the destruction of approximately 60 doors. His background knowledge in handling tools made the blows strikingly authentic. At one point, Kubrick even engaged King in philosophical conversations about whether truly optimistic stories could exist without darkness. Their creative differences eventually overshadowed that early dialogue. When Wendy discovers Jack's manuscript repeating the same sentence endlessly, each page was uniquely formatted. The variations visually track his deteriorating mental state, transforming typography into psychological storytelling. Kubrick originally filmed a hospital epilogue suggesting no evidence of the supernatural was found, but he removed it to preserve ambiguity. The decision ensured the film would linger in viewers' minds long after the credits rolled. The Red Rum sequence was achieved by filming Danny Lloyd saying "murder" and reversing the audio in editing, creating a haunting, unnatural tone. The hedge maze climax required weeks of shooting. Crew members sometimes became disoriented navigating the massive set, mirroring the film's themes of entrapment. Finally, the closing photograph showing Jack at a 1921 celebration remains unexplained. Kubrick never clarified its meaning. Whether it suggests reincarnation, possession, or an eternal cycle, the ambiguity is intentional. Decades later, The Shining continues to inspire debate, analysis, and new interpretations. Its legacy endures not only because of what appears on screen, but because of the intense and often grueling journey required to bring it to life. If you enjoyed exploring these behind-the-scenes revelations, share your thoughts. Which detail unsettled you the most? And what do you believe that final photograph truly means?